Hello everybody, my name is Eberle. I'm an electrical engineer, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to do a firmware update with one of our SCADA cards REGPE. That includes how to do the wiring before the firmware update, how to use the software RPL2, and how to do a little test after the firmware update. For my demonstration, I use a voltage regulator REGDA that contains a SCADA card REGPE, and on my laptop I have the software WinConfig and the software RPL2. Let's get started. For a firmware update, we need two different connections. First, the Ethernet connection, and then the serial connection. I use the first Ethernet port for the update, but it's also possible to use the second one. Later in the software, you will adjust which port you will use for the firmware update. We also did a video about how to find the first Ethernet port on the SCADA card. During the firmware update, both ports need to be connected. Often you use a serial cable with a USB converter. Please make sure that the driver is installed on your laptop. Be aware that on our 19-inch systems, the serial ports for the firmware update differ between the SCADA card types. Inside the WinConfig folder, there are two RPL folders, a version 1 and a version 2. The idea behind these two are basically the same. They are both for firmware updates. The RPL software is for the older hardware versions of the SCADA cards, and the RPL2 is for newer hardware generations that are capable of cybersecurity functions. Today, I only teach you how to use the RPL2. So I open the RPL2 application. I adjusted the settings in the RPL2 software. Let's have a look together how you need to adjust the settings before the update process. First of all, you need to select the SCADA card type. We are using a REGPE, and we are connected to the Ethernet port 1. Then you need to define a new IP address. I define a 172.168.10.10. Next, please mark the IP address Ethernet 1 and the net mask. Furthermore, type in the IP address of your laptop, and then open Settings and type in the serial port of your connection. You find the serial port in the device manager of Windows. In my case, it's the serial port number 6. Once I have configured the settings, it is time to select the firmware file. You find the firmware files of the SCADA cards in the folder WinConfig, RPL2, Firmware. Just select the firmware file. In my case, I'm using a TK28-6. After I connected the hardware, adjusted the settings, and select a firmware file, I simply press Update. I confirm to delete all existing configuration on the SCADA card. And now the card waits for a reboot. To reboot the card, I simply turn off the voltage supply and turn it back on a second later. Now the card does a reboot, and that will take some minutes. After the reboot, you can find the SCADA card in the network. If the firmware update was successful, you can find the SCADA card in the network, and the color behind the IP addresses will indicate that the default password needs to be changed. We explained in another video how to change the default password. That's it for today's video. I hope my instructions served you well. You learned how to create a physical connection before the firmware update and how to use the software RPL2. For further information, please have a look on our other videos or contact our support department. See you next time at Eberle Academy.